Connor Medding. All right. Yep. What we'll do, bud, as soon as we see a couple of numbers by that eyeball up there, then we'll just start chit-chatting about tractor pulling, just having a good time. Cool. So you guys are from way down in Texas, right?
Yes.
Like way down in Texas, right?
We're hour and a half southeast of San Antonio.
So that's, I don't know my Texas geography, but that's down there, right?
We're 2 hours off the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, no, that I can.
Yeah, it's about 1,140 or 50 miles up here for us.
That's a lot.
It's a drive.
That's a lot. Hey, what's going on, guys? We're back at it again. Booth 3194, Louisville, Kentucky, National Farm Machinery Show. Mike Idle here. This time we're hanging out with Connor Medding. We are right in front of the brand new diesel superstock Remedy as it's just been unveiled. National Farm Machinery Show. Stop by and hang out with us. Get an ice cold Train energy drink right on cue if you are around. Hey, Connor, we've got big stories to talk about. Thanks for being with us here today. Let's talk pro stock pulling. You guys have two great-looking John Deere pro stocks. They're both pulling this year at Louisville,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Who's going to be piloting both those down the track this year?
My dad, Clint, is driving the Bulletproof Buck tonight. My little brother, Conley, is going to drive the Bull Wagon on Saturday afternoon.
Okay, and which one of those is the more classic-looking sheet metal?
The 830 is the fan favorite, the Bulletproof Buck.
That's the Bulletproof Buck.
Yes.
So, and that's the one Dad's taking
Yes.
down the track. Absolutely. So let's just get right into it. I'm not going to beat around the bush because if you watched the National Farm Machinery Show last year, really, really interesting story with what the Medding family did. So these pro stocks were originally pulling with the Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pullers Association in a division that we in the Outlaws call the pro stocks, but it's a 5.0 turbocharger pro stock. Now, when you get an invitation to come run at Louisville, you're competing against the Pro Pulling League and the National Tractor Pullers Association, which for all intents and purposes do not have a limit on the inlet side of their turbocharger. On top of that, they're able to run a couple of other goodies as well, too. You guys decided that to come up for this show, you were going to put a lot of work to these tractors and make that switch to come run at the show. From a mechanicking side, tell me everything you had to do to switch them from what everyone calls the 5.0s to the big pros.
It's in a sorts. It's not as much as people might think. It's obviously bigger turbo. It's the intercooler, and just add some more. And just basically you got to turn everything up, fuel, water, the whole 9 yards.
Turn everything up because once you do that, you're pushing a whole lot more air.
Yes.
So the whole idea, more air equals more fuel equals bigger boom.
Yes.
So that's what we're trying to create in there, right? So you do have to turn that up. But I've talked to some other people, some outlaw pullers with the 5.0 chargers on there. And I said, hey, Clint and Connor, they did it. And they were like, yeah, they made it look easy. But it's holding everything together that's the hard part. Now, you guys came out last year with the new setup at Louisville. Correct me if I'm wrong. You not only made the finals, you won your session, right?
Yes, Dad did.
Dad won his session in the Bulletproof Buck, but kind of talking about how things are hard to keep together. It's puking a little oil at the end of the run, wasn't it?
Yes, it had a bolt in the side of the turbo where the wheel speed sensor would go. It rattled loose and it was puking some oil out. But we got it all back together, and we had a hiccup in the finals because our exhaust elbow fell down. So
I remember that as well. True.
It wanted to make another run, and it would have made another run, but that was a mishap on our part.
Well, those things happen. Things go. Did you drive Bull Wagon in the farm show last year?
I did.
You drove Bull Wagon. So walk us through what that was like. I'm assuming that's your first time at Louisville, first time at Freedom Hall. Tell us about all the emotions and everything that went down with that.
Well, actually, last year would have been my second time. I hooked the year before, not with. We didn't have. Last year was the first year, like you said, we came with coolers and everything we had. But it's a different atmosphere to pull at this place. Not only is it an indoor pull, but it's the Super Bowl of truck and tractor pulling. So not everybody can just show up and pull here.
Well, and you're not just competing against your average weekend pullers. Anytime you go pulling at this level, it takes a lot to win.
Yes.
When you come to Louisville, the best of the best of the best are here. So you lay down a pass, and then you've got names like Schromick and Rob Russell and all the others sitting back there that that you're going to have to gunsling out to win that. But you guys made a heck of a show last year. Did that affect the decision to leave the big setups on for the summer of 2024, or had you already decided to do that?
We had kind of decided to do that already. We knew we weren't going to make the full summer, whether we went back to the 5.0 or whether we stayed with the big Chargers. But it's just it's so much of a gap now that it's just too much to change. So we were like, well, we're going to run a short season anyway, so let's go try something different.
And you guys, on through the summer season of 2023, I called it 2024 earlier, I'll correct myself, you held your own. You certainly did not go from a smaller setup to a bigger setup. And a lot of people, there'd be a big learning curve there. But you went to some super national pools and some grand national pools and finished quite respectably, in my opinion.
Yes, we did.
Yep. So tell us about this weekend. Little brother's going to be driving bull wagon. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
How do we decide that? Is that an arm wrestling tournament, or do we flip a coin? Or?
No, I drove here now twice before, and my little brother hasn't. This was his first year to drive this summer, and so imagine that you turn 16 and you get to step on the 5,000 horse pro stock. That's not just every 16-year-old gets to do that. But
I was barely able to pilot my 4-cylinder Tacoma when I turned 16. I can't even imagine strapping myself to one of these 10,000-pound rocket ships behind me.
Well, he's good at it. He's been watching, and the boy is good. He made a test pass part of one yesterday just to get the feel for the indoor pipe, and I think he'll be just fine.
That's excellent. So you've been down the track twice.
Yes.
What advice would you give him if he was hanging out with us right now?
Just tell him to do his thing. He knows what to do. He doesn't need my coaching. We'll set the tractor up like it needs to be, and he's gonna do all he can to get it to the sand pile.
Man, I love that attitude. That's a good leader right there. You're sitting there. I'd have been giving my little brother a hard time and knocking him on the head and saying, hey, don't drive it out of bounds. You know what hook's left here, right? You better stay off that right brake. You guys are a family, does this as a family. Do you guys all three work together? It takes all three of you and more to make this happen, I'm sure.
Yes, it takes us three to we work on them, we wrench on them together, but with us, I've got a little sister back at home and my mom, and if they didn't go with us, we wouldn't go.
Sure.
They really help us get everything to the track and whatever else we need. That they're always there to help us.
Yeah, pulling's a family sport, and it takes a village to make the whole thing happen. Let's talk about the other awesome thing you guys do. So we've talked about that really cool fan story, swatching the Chargers, adding the coolers to them, going to the beach last year. You guys, tractor pulling, I always think of it's a Midwestern sport. It's got a stronghold in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois. You guys are from Texas.
We are.
And we're not talking like Texarkana or somewhere right up there on the Oklahoma border. Tell them where you're from and how long it takes you to get to a pull like this.
We're from Nordheim, so we're in southeast central Texas. We sit about 2 hours north of the Gulf of Mexico. So to get to here, it's about 20 hours. It's about 1,150 miles. It's a 2-day trip for us.
20 hours of driving. You have to bleed truck and tractor pulling and bleed John Deere green to do that. I've talked to some other pullers from Texas today, and you guys represent the state so doggone well. Hey, guys out there in the Midwest, don't complain about driving 6 hours to the farm show because anytime you hook at a pull, you're burning upwards of that 20-hour drive, I'm sure. So is it worth it?
Most of the time, yes.
Most of the time, he says when we win and when nothing breaks and when we see everybody and it doesn't rain, it's worth it.
Yes.
So where was the first place? I think I know the answer to this, but I very well could be wrong. That happens about 100 times a day. Where was the first place you sat in the seat and hooked the tractor yourself?
Actually, my first time would have been down in Whitewright, Texas. We had all three of our tractors there. We've got a 466 tractor at home, and I was going to pull it that weekend, and I took off, and it stood up the front end on me, and it went out of bounds before I could even blink and react. So I was pretty down on myself. I had been looking forward to that weekend for a long time, and Dad said, "You think you can drive that pro stock?" I said, "Well, I can try.
There's only one way to find out.
Exactly. And
the left foot comes up and the right hand goes down, right? What else is there to it?
There you go. And I fared pretty well that weekend. I think I got a third and a fourth, so I was tickled pink.
At a big pull, no less, at White Texas.
Yes.
I was talking to Kurt Van Beek, the owner of the Outlaws, yesterday, and he says it's actually probably the highest attended pull of any of the pulls that run on the Outlaw circuit. It's a big deal down there for sure.
Ray and Ginger Miller, they do a very nice job of promoting that pool. It's standing room only.
Yeah,
especially on Saturday night.
For sure. This last year in White Texas, we're going to get off topic a little bit, but that's certainly fine. They had the orange. No, it wasn't the Orange Blossom Special. They had one of the historic four-wheel drive trucks that went down the track down there. Really neat thing. It's a big pull. It's a great pull. You pulled the NTPA circuit for the first time this year.
Yes.
What were some of your favorite places that you pulled? You pulled Outlaw, but you hadn't pulled all these places with NTPA. What were some pulls that really stood out to you as neat and fun venues to pull at?
The Simons pull there in Farley. That was
sure.
That was the first one we made, and obviously, I mean, and Toma is Toma.
You like Toma? Big fan of Toma?
We got rained out on Saturday, so I didn't get to drive. But man, it's Toma. It's a big deal, we really enjoyed going. We had to cut the season short because we made some changes over the winter to get ready to come here, and so we didn't get to make it to Bowling Green. We'll be out there this next year. That's one we've always wanted to go to. I didn't get to go, but Dad and my little brother and my mom went to Chapel Hill. They said that was a first-class pull down there.
Yeah, Chapel Hill's a lot of fun. I took a couple of pictures of your guys' tractor when I was in Chapel Hill this year. Got rained out on Friday, one of the first time in like 20-some-odd years that they've had rain there in southern Tennessee. And I kind of wondered, I always joke with Steve and Stan Blagrave when I see them there. I'm like, hey, we're pulling in Tennessee. This is like the closest thing to Texas that we ever do in this Midwest. Can you get to Tennessee a little bit quicker, or is it still a long drive?
It's closer, but it's still a drive. But Mike Blake Graves will be correct. It's the same thing for us. It's definitely the closest one for us.
It feels you're sitting there like, oh, it's only 13 hours. It's basically a hometown pull.
Pretty much, yes.
That's awesome. Hey, what has Dad done to get the tractor ready to pull indoors this weekend?
They've been up here a couple of weeks now. Jeremy Nelson and crew, after we had all our sheet metal work done, they did all the paint job and they did a very first class job on them. And so him and my uncle have been up here the past 2 weeks. They put motors back in off the dyno and they got everything ready. So I just flew in yesterday, so I can't take credit for getting them ready because I wasn't here, but I appreciate everything that man does because he keeps us on the track.
Any other people that you need to thank before we get off here?
My parents for keeping these things going, and my uncle, he's a big part of it. He helps us wrench on them, and all of everybody that does our parts. Riverside Engine, Todd Flew, who cuts our tires. The list goes on and on. Yep.
I'm almost afraid to ask that question because it means someone's eventually going to get left out. So to any and all people out there that we need to thank, we say thank you. It takes everyone to go truck and tractor pulling. The Meddings had a big story last year, guys. They're looking up to follow it again this year. We know that something awesome is going to happen. Hey, Connor, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to chit-chat with us. Best of luck to the Bulletproof Buck and the Bull Wagon as we go down that track at Freedom Hall. Thanks for being here, bud. Thank you guys for watching.